My mother-in-law smiled at my wife across the Christmas table, and I knew something terrible was about to happen. Linda never smiled at Sarah. Not when we got married 3 years ago. Not when we announced we were trying for a baby. Not ever. But tonight, December 25th, surrounded by 30 family members in my mother's massive Victorian house in Charleston, she was smiling at my wife, and it made my blood run cold. I am Daniel. I am 32 years old. I work as an architect in Charleston. I grew up in this house with every advantage money could buy. Private schools, European vacations, a trust fund I never asked for. My family has old money, the kind that comes with expectations and judgment. When I met Sarah 3 years ago at a coffee shop where she was grading papers, I knew immediately she was different from every woman my mother had tried to set me up with. Sarah was real. She was kind. She cared about her students more than designer handbags. I fell in love with her in 2 weeks. I proposed months later. My mother hated her on sight. Linda made it clear from day one that Sarah was not good enough for our family. Not the right background, not the right education, not the right breeding. She said these things at our engagement party while my father stood silent. I defended Sarah. I always defended Sarah. But my mother never stopped. 3 years of constant criticism. 3 years of snide comments about Sarah's clothes, her job, her family. My mother sent me articles about divorce statistics. She told me at Thanksgiving I could still get an annulment. She said I was throwing my life away. I threatened to cut her off completely. I told her if she could not respect my wife, we would not come around anymore. That is why we skipped Christmas last year and the year before. We made excuses. We stayed away. But this year, my father called me personally. He said my mother wanted to make things right. She wanted to apologize. She wanted to welcome Sarah properly into the family. My father never lied to me, so I agreed. Sarah was hesitant, but I convinced her. I told her my mother was finally coming around. I believed it. The dinner was perfect to perfect. My mother seated Sarah in the place of honor at her right hand. She complimented Sarah's dress. She asked about her students. She actually listened. I watched Sarah relax for the first time in 3 years around my family. I thought maybe, finally, we could have peace. I should have known better. Dessert came. Pecan pie. My mother's famous recipe. Everyone was laughing, exchanging gifts around the table. My mother stood up and tapped her crystal glass with a silver spoon. The room went silent. Every eye turned to her. She reached under her chair and pulled out a small gift box wrapped in red paper with a gold bow. She walked around the table slowly, deliberately, and placed it in front of Sarah. This is for you. Sarah, my mother's voice was honey sweet, a very special Christmas gift. I want you to open it right now, in front of everyone. I felt my stomach drop. Something was wrong. My mother never gave Sarah gifts. I reached for Sarah's hand under the table. Her fingers were ice cold. She looked at me, uncertain. I wanted to tell her not to open it, but 30 pairs of eyes were watching. If Sarah refused, she would look ungrateful, rude. My mother had trapped her perfectly. Sarah smiled nervously and carefully unwrapped the red paper. Inside was a plain white box. She lifted the lid and pulled out a stack of papers. Legal documents. Her face went confused, then pale. I grabbed the papers from her hands. My eyes scanned the first page. Prenuptial agreement addendum. Financial disclosure. Infidelity investigation report. My heart stopped. I looked up at my mother. Mom, what is this? What did you do? Her smile widened. I hired a private investigator, Daniel, 6 months ago. I needed to protect you. Protect our family. Your wife has been lying to you, to all of us. And I think everyone here deserves to know the truth about who Sarah really is before you waste any more of your life with her. The room was dead silent. My father's face had gone pale. My aunts and uncles stared. My cousins pulled out their phones. Sarah's hands were shaking. Tears filled her eyes. She looked at me like I could fix this, like I could make it stop. I wanted to flip the table over. I wanted to scream, but I was frozen. My mother had orchestrated this perfectly. A public execution at Christmas dinner with 30 witnesses. Mom, my voice came out dangerous and low. What does this report say? She tilted her head, enjoying every second. Why do you not let Sarah explain? After all, she is the one who has been meeting another man every Thursday evening for the past 4 months. She paused for effect at the Riverside Hotel, room 412. Always the same room, Daniel. Always the same time. My investigator has photographs, timestamps, everything you need to file for divorce and protect your assets. The room exploded. Gasps, whispers. My grandmother clutched her pearls. My uncle stood up. Sarah's face crumbled. She looked at me with absolute devastation. Daniel. No, it is not. I never. She could not get the words out. She was sobbing now. Please. You have to believe me. I would never do that to you. I love you. But my mother was already pulling out photographs from her purse. Glossy 8x10 prints. She spread them on the table in front of me like playing cards. Sarah entering a hotel. Sarah in the lobby. Sarah walking down a hallway. Timestamps in the corner. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. For 4 months, my hands picked up the photos. My brain tried to process what I was seeing. It was Sarah. Definitely Sarah. Same coat. Same bag. Going into that hotel over and over. I looked at my wife. The woman I loved more than anything. The woman I had defended against my family for 3 years. And I did not know what to believe anymore. Sarah stood up so fast her chair fell backward. The crash echoed through the silent dining room. Everyone stared. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face. But something in her eyes had changed. Not just hurt anymore. Anger. You want to know what I was doing at that hotel every Thursday? Her voice cracked, but she pushed through. Fine. I will tell everyone. I will tell the truth that your mother already knows because her investigator followed me inside. I was tutoring. My mother laughed. It was cold and cruel tutoring. Really, Sarah? That is the best you can come up with. Sarah wiped her eyes and looked directly at me, ignoring my mother completely. Daniel, for months ago, a woman named Patricia reached out to me through the school. Her son, Marcus, is 9 years old. He has severe dyslexia and anxiety. He was failing 3rd grade. His parents tried everything. Special schools, different tutors. Nothing worked. Marcus would not talk to anyone. He would have panic attacks in learning environments. Patricia was desperate. She asked if I would meet with Marcus privately, one-on-one, away from school settings where he felt judged. Somewhere neutral where he could relax. I remembered. Sarah had mentioned a new student she was helping, but she never gave me details. I thought it was just regular after-school tutoring. Why did you not tell me it was at a hotel? Sarah's voice broke. Because Patricia requested complete privacy. Daniel, Marcus's father is a prominent judge in Charleston. They did not want anyone to know their son was struggling. They were afraid it would affect his career, create gossip. Patricia specifically asked me not to tell anyone, not even you, where we were meeting. She rented that hotel room every week as a neutral, quiet space. I would meet Marcus there. We would work on reading for 2 hours. Then I would leave. That is it. That is the whole story. My mother's face was still smug. How convenient. A story that cannot be verified because of privacy concerns. How much were they paying you for this secret tutoring? Sarah at HMM. Perhaps you were earning extra money your husband knew nothing about. Sarah turned to my mother with a look I had never seen before. You know exactly how much they paid me, Linda. Because your investigator did not just take photos. He talked to the hotel staff. He probably talked to Patricia too. You know the truth. You have always known, but you brought me here tonight, gave me this box in front of 30 people, and accused me of infidelity anyway, because destroying me was always the point. The room shifted. People started looking at my mother differently. My father cleared his throat. Linda, did your investigator confirm who Sarah was meeting? My mother's smile tightened. The investigator confirmed she was entering a hotel room repeatedly. What happens behind closed doors is anyone's guess. Answer the question, Mom. I stood up now, still holding the photographs. Did your investigators see Sarah with a man? With anyone? Or did he just see her going into a room? My mother's jaw clenched. She did not answer. Sarah pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I have text messages from Patricia, emails, lesson plans I created for Marcus, his progress reports. I have for months of documentation. I was going to surprise you, Daniel, with how well Marcus was doing. He just got his first B on a reading test last week. His parents were crying, they were so happy. I was proud. I thought I was helping a child. Her voice broke completely. I did not know I was being followed. I did not know someone was building a case against me. I did not know your mother hated me enough to do this. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, this woman who raised me, who taught me about honor and family and doing the right thing. And I realized I did not know her at all. You knew, didn't you? You knew Sarah was tutoring a child. Your investigator told you the truth, and you brought us here anyway. You staged this whole thing to humiliate her, to destroy our marriage in front of the entire family. My mother lifted her chin. I did what any mother would do. I protected my son from a woman who was clearly hiding things. Secret meetings, secret income. How do we know tutoring is all that was happening? A good mother asks questions. No. My voice came out hard. A good mother trusts her son's judgment. A good mother respects his wife. A good mother does not hire investigators and set traps and publicly humiliate people at Christmas dinner. What you did is not protection, Mom. It is cruelty. My father stood up slowly. He looked older, suddenly tired. Linda, please tell me you verified Sarah's story before tonight. Please tell me you did not accuse her of infidelity based only on photographs of her entering a building. My mother said nothing. Her silence was the answer. My father closed his eyes. Then he looked at Sarah. I am so sorry. This is unforgivable. My grandmother, who had been silent until now, spoke up in her quiet, steely voice. Linda Marie Whitmore, you owe this girl an apology. Right now. My mother's face flushed red. I will not apologize for trying to protect my family from someone who clearly does not belong here. I stood by and watched my son throw away his future on a girl with no breeding, no class, no background. I tried to be polite. I tried to accept it. But I will not sit quietly while she sneaks around behind his back, doing God knows what. That was it. That was the moment I was done. I turned to Sarah. Pack your things. We are leaving now. But Sarah did not move. She was staring at the gift box still sitting on the table, the documents my mother had prepared. She reached forward and picked up the papers, reading through them slowly. Her face changed. Wait, Daniel, look at this. I took the papers. Under the investigation report was something else. A prenuptial agreement addendum, dated for today, Christmas Day. It stipulated that if Sarah was found guilty of infidelity, she would receive nothing in a divorce. No settlement, no alimony, nothing. It had a line for my signature and Sarah's signature. Below there was a separation agreement already filled out, dissolving our marriage effective immediately. My mother had not just planned to accuse Sarah tonight. She had planned to end our marriage tonight. She had prepared legal documents in advance. She expected me to sign them right here at the table in front of everyone, while Sarah was crying and humiliated and unable to defend herself. This was not just cruelty. It was a calculated destruction. I looked at my mother, and for the first time in my life, I felt nothing but disgust. I picked up the entire stack of documents, the photographs, the prenuptial addendum, the separation agreement, all of it, and I tore them in half. Then I tore them again. I let the pieces fall onto my mother's perfect white tablecloth like confetti. We are leaving. I took Sarah's hand. She was still crying, but she stood up. We started walking toward the door. Behind us, the dining room erupted. My aunts were arguing with my mother. My father was saying something I could not hear. My cousins were filming on their phones. I did not care. I just wanted to get Sarah out of there. But my mother's voice cut through the chaos. If you walk out the door with her, Daniel, you are choosing her over your family, over your inheritance, over everything your father and I built for you. You will have nothing. I stopped, turned around, and I laughed. It was not a happy sound. Mom, 3 years ago when I told you I was going to marry Sarah, you said the same thing. You said I would lose everything. So I went to Dad's attorney, and I had my trust restructured. Every dollar I inherited from grandfather's estate, every investment, every property, I moved it into an irrevocable trust with Sarah as the sole beneficiary if anything happens to me. I did that before we even got engaged, because I knew you would try something eventually. I just did not think it would be this cruel. My father's face showed surprise. My mother went pale. You what? I made sure that if you ever forced me to choose between my wife and my money, I could walk away from the money without a second thought. So go ahead, Mom. Disinherit me, cut me off. I have my career. I have my skills. I have Sarah. That is all I need. Your money came with too many strings anyway. Sarah squeezed my hand. She had stopped crying. Daniel, we do not have to do this. We can just leave. We do not need to burn bridges. But I was done protecting my mother's feelings. No, Sarah, you have been quiet for 3 years while she insulted you, while she made you feel small, while she treated you like you were not good enough to breathe the same air. I am not leaving quietly. Everyone here needs to understand what kind of person my mother really is. I turned back to the room full of family members. Some looked shocked. Some looked uncomfortable. My Uncle Robert was nodding slowly like he had been waiting for someone to finally say it. For 3 years, you all watched my mother treat Sarah like garbage. You heard the comments, you saw the exclusion, and none of you said anything. You just let it happen because it was easier to stay silent than to stand up to Linda Whitmore. Well, I am saying it now. My mother is a bully. She is cruel, and what she did tonight, ambushing my wife at Christmas dinner with false accusations and legal documents, that is beyond unforgivable. My grandmother stood up. She was 84 years old, barely 5 feet tall. But when she spoke, everyone listened. Daniel is right. I looked at my daughter-in-law, still standing there. Linda, I raised you better than this. Your father would be ashamed. You owe Sarah an apology. And you owe your son an explanation for why you thought destroying his marriage was acceptable behavior. My mother's face was red now, angry and embarrassed. She looked around the room for support. My father was staring at his plate. My aunts were whispering. No one was defending her. Fine. You want an apology. I am sorry, Sarah. I am sorry you were not good enough for my son. I am sorry you trapped him with your sweet innocent act. I am sorry I actually believed you might care about him instead of his money. There. Are you happy now? The room went silent. Even my grandmother looked stunned. That was not an apology. That was more venom dressed up as courtesy. Sarah's hand tightened on mine. Then she did something I never expected. She stepped forward, walked right up to my mother, and looked her in the eye. Linda, I grew up poor. My mother cleaned houses to feed me. I wore thrift store clothes and studied by flashlight when our electricity got shut off. I know what it is like to have nothing. And you know what I learned. Money does not make you better than anyone else. It just makes you louder. You have spent 3 years trying to break me because you thought I was not good enough for your son. But the truth is, your son is too good for you. He is kind. He is honest. He defends people who cannot defend themselves. And he learned none of that from you. My mother raised her hand like she was going to slap Sarah. I caught her wrist mid-air. Do not. My voice was ice. You have done enough. My father finally stood up. He looked at my mother like he was seeing her clearly for the first time in years. Linda, this has gone too far. You hired an investigator. You set up a trap. You prepared divorce papers without consulting me or Daniel. You tried to destroy their marriage at Christmas dinner in front of the entire family. What were you thinking? My mother jerked her arm away from me. I was thinking about protecting our family's legacy, our reputation, our bloodline. We do not know anything about her family. Her mother could be anyone. She could be after our money, our connections. You are all too blind to see it. Sarah pulled an envelope from her purse. I have been carrying this around for 2 weeks. I was going to give it to Daniel on Christmas morning privately, but I think now is the right time. She handed it to me. Open it. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter on official letterhead from Charleston County Family Services and a photograph. I read the letter once, then again. My hand started shaking. "Sarah, is this real?" She nodded, tears in her eyes again, but different tears this time. "I found out 3 weeks ago. I wanted to wait until after Christmas to tell you. I wanted it to be special." I looked up at my mother, then at my father, then at the whole room. "Sarah is pregnant. We are having a baby." The room erupted again, but this time with gasps and congratulations. My grandmother started crying happy tears. My cousins clapped. Even my Uncle Robert smiled. My father looked stunned, then overjoyed. He crossed the room and hugged Sarah tightly. "Congratulations. This is wonderful news. I am so happy for you both." My mother stood frozen. Her face cycled through emotions, shock, confusion, and then something that might have been regret. But she said nothing. I held up my hand, and the room went quiet again. I looked at my mother directly. "You just spent the last hour trying to destroy the mother of your grandchild. You accused her of infidelity. You humiliated her in front of 30 people. You prepared legal documents to end our marriage. Tonight, and now you are going to stand there and say nothing." My mother's voice came out smaller than before. "I did not know. That is the problem, Mom. You did not know. You did not bother to find out who Sarah really was. You just decided she was not good enough and spent 3 years trying to prove it. Well, let me tell you who Sarah is. She is a teacher who spends her own money buying supplies for kids whose parents cannot afford them. She tutors struggling students for free on weekends. She visits her students' families when they are going through hard times. She donated half her savings last year to a student whose house burned down. She is the kindest, most selfless person I have ever met, and you treated her like she was dirt." My father put his hand on my mother's shoulder. "Linda, I think you need to leave the room. Go upstairs. Cool off. Think about what you have done here tonight." My mother looked around the table at 30 faces staring at her with judgment. For the first time in her life, Linda Whitmore had no power in the room, no control. She had played her hand and lost everything. She turned without a word and walked out. We heard her heels clicking up the stairs. A door slammed. My father exhaled slowly. "I am so sorry to both of you. I knew Linda was unhappy about the marriage, but I had no idea she had gone this far. Hiring investigators, planning this ambush. If I had known, I would have stopped it. I should have been paying closer attention." Sarah wiped her eyes. "It is not your fault, Richard. You have always been kind to me." My grandmother walked over and took both of Sarah's hands in hers. "Sweetheart, I want you to know something. Not everyone in this family feels the way Linda does. You have been a blessing to Daniel. I see how happy he is with you. And this baby you are carrying is my great-grandchild. Nothing Linda says or does will change that. You are family. You will always be family." Other relatives started coming over, apologizing, congratulating us, hugging Sarah. My Aunt Margaret pulled me aside. "Your mother has been getting worse over the years. More controlling, more obsessed with image and status. I think she needs help, professional help. But what she did tonight crossed a line. You have every right to cut her off." "I know, and I am going to, at least for now. Sarah and the baby come first. If my mother cannot respect that, she does not get to be part of our lives." We stayed another hour, not because of my mother, but because the rest of the family wanted to celebrate the pregnancy news properly. My grandmother insisted on bringing out champagne, sparkling cider for Sarah. My cousins wanted to know if we had picked names yet. My father kept apologizing and asking what he could do to make things right. It almost felt normal, almost felt like family. But upstairs, my mother stayed in her room. She did not come back down. She did not apologize. And honestly, I did not care anymore. I was done waiting for her approval. Around 10 o'clock, Sarah and I finally left. We walked out to our car in the cold December air. Sarah leaned against me, exhausted. "I am sorry our baby's first Christmas was so awful." I kissed the top of her head. Our baby's first Christmas was the day I finally stood up to my mother and chose you over everything else. I think that is a pretty good start. We drove home in silence. When we got to our apartment, Sarah went straight to the couch and curled up. I sat next to her, pulling her close. Are you okay? She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, your mother really hates me, Daniel, and I do not think that is ever going to change. What do we do now? Now we build our own family, our own traditions, our own life. And if she wants to be part of it eventually, she has to earn it. She has to prove she can respect you. Until then, we are done. No more dinners. No more trying. We protect our peace and our baby. That is all that matters. Sarah nodded against my chest. Do you think your father will be okay? He looks so sad tonight. My dad will be fine. He has been married to my mother for 35 years. This is not the first time she has gone too far. But maybe tonight will finally be the wake-up call he needs. Maybe he will realize that enabling her behavior has consequences. What about your inheritance? Your trust fund? You really restructured everything. Every word was true. I did it the week after I proposed to you. I knew my mother would eventually use money as a weapon, so I took the weapon away. I make good money as an architect. We will be fine. Better than fine. We will be free. Sarah tilted her head up and kissed me. I love you. Thank you for defending me tonight. Thank you for choosing me. I will always choose you. Always. I held her close, feeling the slight curve of her belly where our baby was growing. This right here, this quiet moment in our small apartment with my wife in my arms. This was worth more than every dollar in my family's estate. My mother spent her whole life chasing status and image and control. And in the end, what did it get her? A house full of people who were afraid of her and a son who walked away. I would not make the same mistake. I would build something different, something real. 3 days later, my father showed up at our apartment unannounced. I opened the door to find him standing there in jeans and a sweater, looking more casual than I had ever seen him. No suit, no tie. He looked tired. Can I come in? We need to talk. I let him in. Sarah was at work, which was probably better. This conversation needed to happen father to son. I made coffee. We sat at our small kitchen table, and for a minute, neither of us spoke. Finally, my father said, your mother checked herself into a wellness facility yesterday. She will be there for 30 days. Intensive therapy. I drove her there myself. I was not expecting that. Is she okay? Physically, yes. Mentally and emotionally, no. She has not been okay for a long time, Daniel. I just did not want to see it. After Christmas dinner, after you left, I went upstairs and found her crying. I realized we had reached a breaking point. I called her doctor. He recommended inpatient treatment. She agreed to go. I think part of her knew she needed help. I sipped my coffee, processing. What is she being treated for? Anxiety, control issues, depression. The therapist said she has been showing signs of obsessive behavior for years. It got worse after your grandfather died and she inherited the estate responsibilities. She became fixated on maintaining the family image, protecting the legacy. It turned into something unhealthy. She sees threats everywhere, even when they do not exist, and she lashes out to regain control. What she did to Sarah was the culmination of years of unchecked mental health issues. That does not excuse what she did, Dad. No, it does not. My father's voice was firm. Your mother's actions were cruel and unforgivable, regardless of her mental state. She hurt Sarah. She hurt you. She humiliated herself in front of the entire family. There are consequences for that, but I wanted you to understand the context. She is sick, Daniel, and she is finally getting help. I stared at my coffee. Part of me wanted to feel sympathy. She was my mother. But the other part of me, the part that held Sarah while she cried for 3 days, the part was still angry. What do you want me to do with this information, Dad? Nothing right now. I am not asking you to forgive her. I am not asking you to visit her or call her. I just wanted you to know what is happening. When she gets out in 30 days, she will need to make amends. Real amends. Apologies that actually mean something. And if she cannot do that, if she comes out of treatment and goes right back to her old behavior, then I will support whatever boundaries you need to set, including cutting her off completely. I looked at my father, really looked at him. And are you okay? He smiled sadly. I have been enabling your mother's behavior for 35 years, ignoring the warning signs, making excuses, keeping the peace instead of addressing problems. I am complicit in what happened at Christmas dinner. So no, I am not okay, but I am going to fix it. I have already started seeing a therapist myself, and I have made some decisions. What kind of decisions? I am revising my will. Sarah and your child will be protected no matter what happens. If your mother tries anything like this again, she will not have access to any family assets to weaponize. I am also establishing a trust for your baby that your mother cannot touch or contest. And I am meeting with a mediator to discuss separating some of our finances. Your mother and I need accountability in our relationship. That starts with making sure she cannot use money to hurt people anymore. I felt my throat tighten. Thank you, Dad. That means everything. He reached across the table and squeezed my shoulder. You did the right thing walking out on Christmas. You protected your wife. You stood up for what was right even when it was hard. I am proud of you, son. I should have done the same thing years ago, after my father left. I sat alone in the quiet apartment, thinking about family and forgiveness and consequences. My mother was getting help. That was good. But help did not erase harm. She had spent 3 years making Sarah feel worthless. And then she tried to destroy our marriage in the most public, humiliating way possible. That was not just a mental health crisis. That was a choice, a series of choices. When Sarah came home from work that evening, I told her everything. She listened quietly, then said, I am glad she is getting help. I really am. But Daniel, I do not know if I can ever trust her again. Even if she apologizes, even if she changes. She looked me in the eye and called me a gold digger in front of 30 people. She accused me of infidelity. She tried to end our marriage. How do I come back from that? You do not have to come back from it, I said. You do not owe her forgiveness just because she is sick. You get to decide what relationship, if any, you want with her moving forward. And I will support whatever you choose. If you never want to see her again, I understand. If you want to give her one chance after treatment, I understand that too. This is your call. Sarah put her hand on her belly, where our baby was growing. I want our child to have grandparents. I want them to have family. But I also want them to grow up knowing that respect and kindness matter more than blood. If your mother can show me she has truly changed, if she can respect me as a person and as your wife, then maybe we can try. But it has to be real, not just words. Real change. That is fair. We spent the next month preparing for the baby and staying away from my family. My father checked in once a week. He said my mother was doing well in treatment, participating fully, working through her issues. He did not ask us to visit or call. He understood we needed space. My grandmother sent care packages. My cousins texted congratulations. The family was trying, in their own way, to make up for Christmas dinner. Then, 30 days after she checked in, my mother came home. My father called to let me know. She wants to see you and Sarah. She wants to apologize properly, but only if you are ready. No pressure, no expectations. I talked to Sarah. She thought about it for 2 days. Then she said, okay. One meeting, public place, your father present. If she is genuine, we will see. If she is not, we are done forever. We met at a cafe in Charleston on a Saturday afternoon. Neutral ground. My mother arrived with my father. She looked different, thinner, older. Her hair was pulled back simply. No makeup, no jewelry. She looked like a regular person instead of Linda Whitmore, society matriarch. She sat down across from us, hands folded, and for a long moment, she just looked at Sarah. Then she said, I am sorry. Her voice was quiet, shaky. I am sorry for what I did at Christmas. I am sorry for the 3 years before that. I am sorry for making you feel unwelcome and unwanted and not good enough. You did nothing wrong. You love my son. You made him happy. And I treated you like an enemy because I was scared of losing control, scared of change, scared that if Daniel built his own life, I would not matter anymore. That fear turned into cruelty, and there is no excuse for that. I hurt you. I humiliated you. I tried to destroy your marriage, and I am deeply, profoundly sorry. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she did not speak yet. My mother continued. I spent 30 days in therapy learning about myself, about my issues with control and anxiety and self-worth. I learned that I had been using status and image as a shield for decades. And when you came into Daniel's life, you represented everything I could not control. You did not need my approval. You did not care about my money or my name. Daniel chose you anyway, and that terrified me. So I tried to break you. I tried to prove you were not good enough so I could feel powerful again. But all I did was lose my son and prove that I am the one who was not good enough. Not good enough to be the mother Daniel deserved. Not good enough to welcome you into the family the way I should have. She wiped her eyes. I cannot undo what I did. I cannot take back the pain I caused. But I want you to know that I am committed to changing. I am staying in therapy. I am working on myself. And if you give me a chance, I will spend the rest of my life proving to you that I can be better. That I can be the mother-in-law and grandmother your family deserves. But if you choose not to give me the chance, I will understand. I will respect your boundaries, and I will live with the consequences of my actions. The cafe was quiet around us. Sarah looked at me. I nodded slightly. This was her decision. She turned back to my mother. Linda, I appreciate your apology. I do. But I need you to understand something. I am not afraid of you anymore. I am not going to spend my life trying to earn your approval or prove my worth. I know who I am. I know I am a good wife to Daniel, and I will be a good mother to our child. If you want to be part of our lives, you have to accept that. You have to treat me with respect. And the very first time, you make a snide comment or try to control something or act like I am beneath you, we're done. No second chances after this. Do you understand? My mother nodded. I understand, and I agree. You deserve respect. I will give it to you. Sarah took a breath. Okay. Then we can try. Slowly, carefully. But we can try. My mother's face crumpled with relief. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance I do not deserve. We spent an hour at that cafe talking, carefully, tentatively, building something new from the wreckage of what came before. It was not perfect. It was not healed. But it was a start. And sometimes, that is all you can ask for. 6 months later, our daughter was born. Emma Grace, 8 pounds, healthy and perfect. My mother was there at the hospital. She brought flowers for Sarah and a handmade blanket for Emma. She held her granddaughter with tears streaming down her face and whispered, I promise I will be better for you. I promise. And so far, she has kept the promise. Progress is slow. There are still moments of tension. Still times when I see the old Linda trying to surface. But she catches herself now. Apologizes. Steps back. The work is ongoing. Maybe it always will be. But on Christmas this year, we went back to the house in Charleston. This time, my mother seated Sarah at the head of the table. This time, she toasted the family, all family, and looked directly at Sarah when she said it. This time, when she handed Sarah a gift, it was a framed photo of Emma with a note that said, Thank you for giving me a second chance. I will never waste it. Sarah cried. So did I. And my mother smiled. A real smile this time, full of gratitude instead of malice. It turns out that even the most broken things can be repaired if people are willing to do the work. It just takes honesty, humility, and the courage to change. My mother found the courage, and our family is stronger for it.